Tonight, as the world around you slowly begins to quiet down, we travel back, far beyond the modern age, far beyond cities, lights, and noise, to a place where nature ruled everything, where thick green forests stretched endlessly, and where the rhythm of life moved gently, guided by the sun and the seasons. In this distant world, long before chocolate became a simple comfort, it was something rare, something meaningful, something almost sacred. Deep within the lands of ancient Mesoamerica, among civilizations like the Maya, there grew a tree unlike any other. It was not the tallest nor the most beautiful at first glance, but hidden within its pods was something truly special. The cacao tree. Its fruits, oval-shaped and rough on the outside, held within them soft white pulp and small beans. Beans that would one day change the world. But in those early times, they were not seen as something sweet or indulgent. Instead, they were respected. Carefully harvested by skilled hands, the cacao pods were opened with simple tools, revealing the beans inside, which were then left to dry under the warm sun. The process was slow, deliberate, and deeply connected to the land. There was no rush, no urgency, only patience. Once dried, the beans were roasted over gentle fire, their rich aroma slowly filling the air before being crushed into a thick, dark paste. This paste was then mixed with water and sometimes flavored with spices like chili or flowers, creating a drink that was bold, bitter, and unlike anything we know today. It was not meant for casual enjoyment. It was not a dessert. It was a ritual, a symbol. For the Maya people, this drink held deep importance. It was used in ceremonies offered to gods, shared during important gatherings, and sometimes reserved only for those of high status. Kings would drink it. Warriors would drink it. Priests would prepare it. Each sip carried meaning, a connection between the physical world and something beyond. The cacao bean itself was more than just an ingredient. It was valuable. So valuable that it became a form of currency. People could trade cacao beans for goods, for food, for tools. Imagine holding something so small, yet so powerful in its worth. And as the days passed, life continued in this quiet rhythm. Farmers tending to crops, families gathering in the evening light, stories being shared beneath open skies, and somewhere among it all, the gentle preparation of this ancient drink. There were no factories, no machines. Everything was done by hand, with care, with intention. Time moved slowly, and perhaps more peacefully. As centuries passed, another great civilization rose, the Aztecs. They too discovered the power of cacao. But for them, it held even greater importance. They believed cacao was a gift from their gods, a divine creation, meant to nourish both body and spirit. The drink they created, often called exocolate, was stronger, more intense, and deeply respected. It was not for everyone. Only the elite, the powerful, the chosen could enjoy it regularly. Warriors would drink it before battle, believing it gave them strength. Leaders would drink it during ceremonies, symbolizing their status. And in the quiet halls of temples, priests would prepare it carefully as offerings to higher powers. Chocolate, in its earliest form, was not about comfort. It was about meaning, about connection, about identity. But beyond these rituals, there was something else, something simple yet important. The feeling of community. People gathered. They shared moments. They lived slowly. And chocolate was a small part of that larger story. A thread woven into the fabric of everyday life. Until, slowly, the world began to change. Far beyond these lands, across vast oceans, another world was growing. A world of ships, of exploration, of curiosity. And one day, those two worlds would meet. But for now, in this quiet moment, we remain here, in the warm air, the gentle sounds of nature around us, watching as this ancient tradition continues, unchanged, peaceful, and deeply rooted in time. And now, as the quiet rhythm of ancient life continues behind us, we slowly begin to move forward in time, toward a moment of change, a moment that would quietly reshape the journey of chocolate forever. Far beyond the forests of Mesoamerica, across vast and restless oceans, a different world was unfolding. In Europe, life was very different. Cities were growing, kingdoms were expanding, and explorers were setting sail into the unknown. The sea, once feared, was now becoming a pathway, a path toward discovery. Ships moved slowly across the waves, carrying with them hope, ambition, and curiosity. And among those journeys, there came a time when European explorers reached the lands of the Americas. When they first arrived, everything felt unfamiliar. The landscapes, the people, the traditions, all so different from what they had known. And among the many things they encountered was something small, something simple, yet deeply unusual. Cacao. At first, it did not seem important. The beans were strange. The drink even stranger, bitter, thick, and far from the sweet comforts they were used to. Many did not enjoy it. Some even rejected it. But there were a few who looked beyond the taste, who noticed something else. Value, potential. A quiet curiosity began to grow. What was this drink? Why did it hold such importance among the native people? Why was it treated with such care? Slowly, over time, cacao began its journey across the ocean. Carried aboard ships packed carefully among other goods, making its way into European lands. At first, it remained rare. Only a few had access to it. It was seen as something exotic, something mysterious, and as people experimented with it, they began to change it. The bitterness was softened with the addition of sugar. A new ingredient, unfamiliar to the original tradition, but quickly embraced in Europe. Milk was added. Spices were adjusted, and slowly the drink began to transform. It became smoother, sweeter, more comforting, something that could be enjoyed rather than endured. In royal courts, chocolate became a luxury. Kings and queens drank it from fine cups. Servants prepared it carefully. It became a symbol once again, but this time a symbol of elegance and status in a different world. Quiet rooms filled with soft conversations, warm drinks held in delicate hands, and chocolate slowly finding its place in a new culture. But even as it changed, its origins remained distant. The deep forests, the ancient rituals, the meaning it once held, began to fade into memory. Now it was becoming something else, something new. As trade expanded, chocolate spread further across Europe, from Spain to France to England, each place adding its own touch, each place shaping it in its own way. And with each change it moved further from its original form, but also closer to what we know today. Factories had not yet arrived. Everything was still crafted slowly, prepared with care, consumed in quiet moments. And yet, the world itself was beginning to move faster. Trade routes expanded, demand increased, more people wanted this new sweet experience, and so production began to grow. More cacao was needed, more hands were required. And with that, the story of chocolate became more complex, more connected to the larger world, a world that was changing rapidly. But for now, in this moment, we pause. We sit quietly in these early European rooms, watching as something once sacred slowly becomes something familiar, something comforting. A drink shared in calm conversation, on quiet evenings, as the world outside continues to evolve. And as this gentle transformation continues, we prepare to move forward once more, into the next chapter of this story, where chocolate will take another step, toward becoming what we know today. And now, as we gently move forward through time, we begin to notice something changing. The quiet, handcrafted preparation of chocolate, the slow rituals, the careful grinding of beans, all of it slowly begins to shift. The world itself is no longer as still as it once was. In Europe, new ideas were rising, machines were being built, cities were growing larger, and life was beginning to move faster. This was the beginning of what we now call the Industrial Age, a time when human effort was slowly being replaced by machines. And as industries grew, so did the demand for chocolate. No longer just for kings and nobles, people from different walks of life began to discover it. They tasted its sweetness, they enjoyed its warmth, and they wanted more. But the old methods, the slow grinding, the manual preparation, could not keep up. Something had to change. And so, inventors began experimenting, trying to find ways to make chocolate faster, smoother, and easier to produce. One of the most important changes came. In the early 1800s, a machine was created that could grind cacao beans more efficiently. This made chocolate production quicker. But more importantly, it made it more consistent. For the first time, chocolate could be produced in larger amounts. And slowly, it began to move beyond royal courts into everyday life. But the biggest transformation was still yet to come. In 1828, a breakthrough happened. A man named Coenraad van Houten developed a process to separate cocoa butter from cacao beans. This might sound simple, but it changed everything. By removing the fat, he created a fine cocoa powder that could be mixed more easily with liquids. This made chocolate smoother, less heavy, and easier to drink. It also reduced bitterness, making it more enjoyable for more people. And with this discovery, chocolate began its next evolution. Soon after, another idea emerged. What if chocolate did not have to be a drink at all? What if it could be something solid, something you could hold, break, and slowly enjoy? This idea led to the creation of the first solid chocolate bars. At first, they were simple, dark, slightly rough in texture, but still, they were something new, something exciting. People could now carry chocolate with them. Eat it any time, not just in quiet rooms, but in everyday life. Then came another important change: milk. By adding milk to chocolate, it became even smoother, even creamier, and far more appealing to a wider audience. This was the birth of milk chocolate, the kind we know so well today. And with that, chocolate truly became a global experience. Factories began to appear, large buildings filled with machines working continuously, turning raw cacao into finished products. The process that once took days now took hours. The quiet rituals were replaced by steady mechanical motion. But something interesting remained. Even as the process changed, even as production increased, the feeling of chocolate stayed the same. Comfort. Warmth. A small moment of peace. People began enjoying chocolate in new ways, children tasting it for the first time, families sharing it, workers taking short breaks with something sweet in hand. Chocolate was no longer rare. It was no longer only for the powerful. It had become something for everyone. And yet, if you look closely, you can still see its past. In every bar, in every cup, there is a quiet connection to those ancient forests, to the Maya, to the Aztecs, to the slow, careful preparation that once defined it. A journey that began in silence and slowly reached the entire world. And as we sit here now, in this calm moment, we realize something simple. Chocolate is not just a food, it is a story of change, of movement, of time. And as this chapter gently comes to an end, we prepare to move once more into the final parts of this journey, where chocolate becomes a part of everyday life in ways both simple and familiar. And now, as time continues to move forward, we begin to notice something gentle and quiet, a shift not just in chocolate itself, but in how people experience it. What was once rare, once sacred, once reserved for kings and rituals, is now becoming something far more simple, far more personal. Chocolate is becoming part of everyday life. Across growing cities, small shops begin to appear. Windows filled with carefully arranged sweets, soft lights glowing in the evening, and inside, the warm scent of cocoa gently filling the air. People walk in slowly, choosing small pieces, wrapping them carefully, taking them home, no longer a distant luxury, but a quiet comfort. Factories continue to grow, machines working steadily, producing more chocolate than ever before, bars, parlours, drinks, each one finding its way into homes around the world. And as transportation improves, trains moving across long distances, ships crossing oceans more frequently, chocolate begins to travel further than ever before, from Europe to America to many other parts of the world. Different cultures begin to embrace it, each adding their own touch. Some prefer it dark and rich, others sweet and creamy. Some enjoy it as a drink, others as a small treat at the end of the day. But no matter the form, the feeling remains the same. A moment of calm, a small pause in the day. In quiet homes, families gather. Children sit close together, holding small pieces of chocolate, slowly tasting something simple, yet deeply comforting. In colder places, people warm their hands around cups of hot cocoa, steam rising softly into the air as the outside world grows still. And in busy cities, amid noise and movement, there are still small moments. A person sitting alone, taking a break, unwrapping a piece of chocolate, and for just a few seconds, feeling calm, feeling present. Chocolate becomes more than just food. It becomes a part of routine, a quiet companion, something familiar, something reliable. And yet, hidden within all of this is a long journey, a journey that most people never see. The ancient forests, the careful hands of farmers, the slow transformation through time, all of it still there. Just beneath the surface, as the years continue, chocolate continues to evolve. New flavors appear, new shapes, new experiences, but its essence remains unchanged. A simple pleasure, a gentle comfort, a quiet moment in a busy world. And as we sit here now watching this story unfold, we begin to feel the calm within it, the steady rhythm of history, the slow movement of time, and the small ways in which something so simple can become a part of so many lives. And as this part of the journey gently settles, we prepare for the final chapter, where we reflect and slowly bring this story to a peaceful close. And now, as our journey slowly comes to an end, we find ourselves in a quiet moment, somewhere between the past and the present. We have traveled far, from the deep forests of ancient lands, where cacao first grew quietly beneath the shade of tall trees, to the hands of early civilizations, who treated it with care, respect, and meaning. We have watched it transform, crossing oceans, changing form, becoming softer, sweeter, more familiar, from sacred ritual to royal luxury, to something simple, something shared by people everywhere. And yet, through all of these changes, something has remained the same. A feeling, a quiet sense of comfort. Chocolate, in all its forms, has always carried with it a small moment of stillness, a pause, a gentle break from the world. And perhaps that is why it has lasted so long. Not just because of its taste, but because of how it makes people feel. Calm, relaxed, at ease. And now, as you rest here listening to this quiet story, you become a part of that same journey. A moment of stillness in your own day, a soft space where time slows down and the world feels just a little more peaceful. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go, just this moment and a gentle rhythm of history fading softly into the background. As the story comes to a close, you may notice your thoughts becoming quieter, your breathing slowing, your body relaxing, and that is perfectly fine. Because this was never just a story, it was a journey meant to guide you gently toward rest, toward calm, toward sleep. And if you enjoyed this quiet journey through history, if these slow stories help you relax and drift into peaceful sleep, you can always return again. There are many more stories waiting, many more quiet moments to explore. So, whenever you need a break from the noise of the world, you can come back to *Try Sleep 4, where history is slow, gentle, and made for rest. Now, as everything fades softly into silence, let yourself relax completely and drift peacefully into sleep. Tonight, we begin another quiet journey. Far from the modern world, far from the noise of busy streets and glowing lights, to a time when the world was still vast, mysterious, and mostly unknown, a time when maps were incomplete, when distant lands were spoken of in whispers, and when travel itself was a slow and uncertain adventure. In this distant past, we follow the story of a young traveler, a man whose name would one day be remembered across centuries, Marco Polo. But before he became known, before his stories spread across Europe, he was simply a young boy, growing up in the city of Venice. Venice, a place surrounded by water, filled with ships, with merchants, with voices from distant lands. It was a city of movement, a place where goods arrived from far away, spices, silks, stories, all carried across long and difficult journeys. Marco grew up listening to travelers, to merchants, to the quiet conversations of those who had seen more of the world than most. And among these stories, there was one place that stood apart, a distant empire, far beyond the deserts, beyond the mountains, a land ruled by a powerful leader, the Mongol Empire. And at its center, the court of Kublai Khan. To many in Europe, this place felt almost unreal, a world too far away to imagine clearly. But for Marco's family, it was not just a story. His father and uncle had already traveled there once before. They had seen it, experienced it, and now they were preparing to return. This journey would not be easy. It would take years, across harsh landscapes, through unknown territories, with no certainty of what lay ahead. But Marco, still young, felt something inside him. Curiosity, a quiet desire to see what lay beyond the familiar. And so, when the time came, he joined them, leaving behind the comfort of home, stepping into a journey that would change his life forever. The road ahead was long, dusty paths stretching into the horizon, mountains rising in the distance, and silence broken only by the sound of footsteps and wind. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The journey was slow. There were no shortcuts, no easy ways forward, only patience, only movement. Through deserts where the air was dry and still, through towns where languages sounded unfamiliar, through nights where the sky stretched endlessly above them, Marco watched everything. He listened, he learned. Each place, each moment, adding quietly to his understanding of the world. And as time passed, the lands began to change. The familiar slowly faded. New cultures appeared, different ways of life, different rhythms, until finally, after years of travel, they reached something extraordinary. The edge of a vast empire. The Mongol Empire, a land unlike anything Marco had ever seen. Wide open spaces, moving tribes, and a sense of power that could be felt even in silence. And somewhere within this empire was the court of Kublai Khan, a place of great importance. A place of structure, tradition, and quiet authority. And as Marco and his family moved closer, they prepared themselves for what would come next, a meeting that would shape the rest of his journey. But for now, we pause here, standing at the edge of this vast and powerful world, as the story gently continues, and now, as the long journey across deserts and distant lands slowly comes to rest, we find ourselves standing at the edge of something vast, something powerful, something almost beyond imagination. The Mongol Empire. It stretched farther than anything Marco had ever known. Across plains, across mountains, across endless open skies, a world that felt both quiet and immense. And at the center of it all was the court of Kublai Khan. A place not just of power, but of order and presence. As Marco and his family moved deeper into the empire, they began to notice the rhythm of Mongol life. It was different. Not built around cities and stone buildings, but around movement, large open lands with people living in tents, traveling with the seasons, their lives closely connected to the land. There was a calm strength in it, a sense of simplicity, yet beneath it a powerful structure. Messengers moved quickly across long distances, carrying information through a system that seemed almost effortless. Horses, strong and steady, were at the heart of everything. Communication, travel, connection, all flowed through these quiet movements across the land. Marco observed carefully. Every detail, every difference. He listened to languages he had never heard before, watched customs that felt unfamiliar, and slowly began to understand a world far from his own. And then, the moment arrived, the meeting. They were brought before Kublai Khan, the ruler of this vast empire. The air felt still, not tense, but quiet, as if everything around them moved with intention. Kublai Khan sat with calm authority, not loud, not overwhelming, but present. His power did not need to be shown. It was simply understood. Around him, the court was organized. Officials, advisors and servants, each moving with quiet purpose. There was no chaos, no confusion, only structure, only order. Marco stood there, young, far from home, yet completely aware that he was witnessing something rare, something few people from his world would ever see. Kublai Khan spoke with them, through translators, words moving slowly between languages, carrying meaning across cultures. He was curious, interested in the lands Marco's family had come from, in their stories, in their knowledge, and in Marco himself. There was something about the young traveler, his curiosity, his calm attention, that caught the attention of the ruler, and slowly something unexpected happened. Marco was invited to stay, not just as a visitor, but as part of the court. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Marco began to live within this distant world. He observed the court closely, the routines, the decisions, the quiet movements of a powerful system. He learned how messages were sent across the empire, how trade was managed, how people from many different cultures lived under one rule. The court itself was not just one place. It moved, season by season, following the natural flow of the land. Large camps were set up, filled with beautifully designed tents, each one placed with care. Even in movement, there was structure. There was balance. Food was prepared in simple yet thoughtful ways. Meat, milk, grains, shared among people who lived close to the land. Ceremonies were held, not loud or chaotic, but calm, measured, with deep cultural meaning. Marco watched everything. He did not rush, he did not judge, he simply observed, and in doing so, he began to understand something deeper, that this world, so different from his own, was not strange. It was simply another way of living, another rhythm, another way of finding balance. Time moved gently. There was no need for hurry, no constant pressure, only the steady flow of daily life, guided by tradition and experience. And as Marco spent more time in the court, he became trusted. Given small responsibilities, sent on journeys within the empire, learning more with each step, seeing more than most could ever imagine, and through it all, he remained the same, quietly curious, calmly observing, carrying within him the stories of this vast world, stories that would one day travel back with him, across oceans, across time. But for now, we remain here, in the quiet presence of the Mongol court, watching as this young traveler slowly becomes a part of something much larger than himself. And as the soft rhythm of this world continues, we prepare to move forward once more into the next chapter of his journey. And now, as time continues to pass quietly within the vast Mongol Empire, we begin to see Marco's role slowly change. No longer just a visitor, no longer simply an observer. He becomes something more, a traveler within the empire itself. Kublai Khan, seeing his curiosity and calm nature, begins to trust him, and with that trust comes responsibility. Marco is given tasks, small at first, simple journeys, messages to deliver, places to visit. But each journey takes him deeper into the empire, further away from the court and closer to the true rhythm of this vast land. He travels across wide open plains, where the horizon seems endless, where the wind moves gently across tall grass, and where silence feels almost complete. There are no crowded cities here, no constant noise, only space. only sky, and the steady movement of people, living in harmony with the land. Marco rides for days, sometimes weeks, moving from one region to another. Along the way, he encounters different communities, each with their own customs, their own traditions, their own quiet ways of life. Some live near rivers where water flows slowly, supporting small settlements. Others move constantly, following their animals, never staying in one place for too long. There is a sense of freedom in it, but also discipline. Everything has its place. Everything has its time. He watches as people set up their tents, large circular structures, strong yet flexible, designed to move when needed. Inside, life is simple. Warmth from fire, shared meals, quiet conversations, no unnecessary noise, no rush, only presence. Marco learns to adapt. He learns how to travel long distances, how to read the land, how to understand people without words. Language barriers exist, but communication still happens. Through gestures, through shared actions, through simple understanding. And as he travels further, he begins to see something remarkable: the system of the empire. A network of communication unlike anything in his homeland. Stations placed across long distances, each one prepared with fresh horses, ready for messengers to arrive. A message could travel faster than expected, moving from one place to another without delay. It was efficient, organized, quietly powerful. Marco is amazed by this. He had never seen such coordination before, such structure across such vast land, and yet it all works, without chaos, without confusion. Just a steady flow of movement. As he continues his journeys, he visits towns, small centers of trade, where goods from different regions are exchanged. Silk, spices, tools, all moving quietly between hands. People from different backgrounds meet here, not in conflict, but in exchange. A quiet understanding that trade connects them all. Marco observes carefully every detail, every system, every moment. And slowly, he begins to realize something important. This empire, so vast, so different, is not built on noise or force alone. It is built on balance, on systems that allow it to function smoothly, on trust between people and structure within leadership. And somewhere within all of this, Marco finds his place. He is no longer just passing through. He is part of the movement, part of the story. Years begin to pass. Time moves quietly. There is no urgency, no rush to return, only the steady rhythm of life, unfolding one journey at a time. He grows older, wiser, more aware of the world beyond his original home. And yet, there are still moments of stillness, moments where he pauses, looking out across the open land, watching the sun slowly set, feeling the calm of a world so different, yet so complete. And in those moments, there is no need for words, no need for explanation, only the quiet understanding that he is witnessing something rare, something few others from his world will ever see. And as this chapter of travel and discovery continues, we slowly begin to feel the passage of time, the gentle shift from curiosity to understanding, from observation to experience. And as Marco's journey carries him even further, we prepare to follow him into the next part of the story, where his role within the empire becomes even deeper, and his connection to this distant world even stronger. And now, as the years pass quietly within the vast Mongol Empire, we begin to notice a gentle change. Marco is no longer just a traveler, no longer someone moving from place to place. He has become a part of the court itself. The movement of journeys slows, and in its place, a different rhythm begins. The rhythm of life within power. The court of Kublai Khan continues to move with the seasons, yet everything within it feels steady, organized and calm. Large camps are set up with care, each tent placed with purpose, forming a space that feels almost like a moving city. At the center, the presence of Kublai Khan remains constant, not loud, not forceful, but deeply respected. People move with quiet awareness around him, Officials carry out their duties, messengers arrive and leave. Decisions are made without chaos. There is no rush, only structure. Marco now understands this world more clearly. He knows the routines, the expectations, the silent rules that guide everything. And slowly, he is given greater responsibility, tasks that require trust, journeys that carry importance, messages that must be delivered with care. He becomes a link between different parts of the empire, a quiet observer, but also a participant. Days blend into months, months into years. Time passes gently. There is no clear beginning or end to each day, only the steady flow of life. In the mornings, the court awakens slowly. The air is cool, the land quiet. People begin their work without noise. Food is prepared, simple, nourishing, shared among those within the camp. Marco often sits quietly, watching, listening, learning. There is always something new to understand. Even in repetition, there is detail. Ceremonies take place from time to time, not grand in the way one might expect, but meaningful, measured. Each movement, each action, holding significance. Clothing reflects status, colors, patterns, materials, all carefully chosen. Yet nothing feels excessive. Everything feels balanced. And beyond the court, the empire continues to move. Trade flows steadily. Messages travel across long distances. Communities live their lives quietly, connected through this vast system. Marco begins to see the larger picture, not just individual moments, but how everything fits together. How a structure so large can remain stable. How different cultures, different people can exist within the same space. And in this understanding, there is a quiet respect, a recognition that this world, so different from his own, has its own form of order, its own sense of harmony. Years continue to pass. Marco changes, not outwardly but within. His thoughts become calmer, his observations deeper. He no longer sees things as unfamiliar, but as part of a larger whole. There are moments when he remembers Venice, the narrow streets, the sound of water, the voices of merchants. But those memories feel distant now, soft, almost like a dream. This place, this life, has become his present. And yet, time does not stand still. Even in a world that feels steady, change slowly approaches. Kublai Khan grows older. The court, while still strong, begins to shift in subtle ways. Nothing sudden, nothing dramatic, just small changes felt more than seen. Marco notices this. He senses that his time here, while long, is not endless, and with that realization comes a quiet reflection on everything he has seen, everything he has experienced. A journey that began with curiosity has become something much deeper, understanding. And as this long chapter of life within the court begins to settle, we prepare to move gently toward the final part of this story, where the journey will slowly turn once more, and the path will begin to lead back toward home. And now, as the long years within the Mongol Empire begin to fade gently into memory, we arrive at the final chapter of this quiet journey. Time, which once felt slow and endless, has moved forward. Marco, no longer the young traveler who left Venice, now carries within him years of experience, years of observation, years of living in a world far from home. The court of Kublai Khan, still steady, still calm, has begun to change in small, almost unnoticeable ways. Nothing sudden, nothing loud, just the natural movement of time. And with it, a quiet realization begins to form. The journey may soon come to an end. For many years, Marco and his family had remained in this distant land, serving, learning, observing, becoming a part of something much larger than themselves. But now, the idea of returning home begins to grow. At first, it is just a thought, soft, distant, like a memory slowly returning. Venice, the city of water, the place where everything began. And as this thought becomes clearer, they begin to seek permission to leave. it is not simple. Leaving the court of Kublai Khan is not something done lightly. But time has passed, trust has been built, and eventually the opportunity arrives, a mission, one that would allow them to travel once more, this time toward home. And so the journey begins again. But now everything feels different. The same roads, the same lands, yet seen through new eyes. Marco travels once more across vast distances, but this time he is not discovering, he is remembering each place, each moment, carrying a quiet sense of familiarity. The deserts stretching endlessly beneath the sun, the mountains standing still against the sky, the towns filled with quiet life. All of it feels known, understood. Time moves gently, as it always has. Days passing into nights, nights into days. There is no rush, no urgency, only the steady movement forward. And as the journey continues, there are moments of silence, moments where Marco reflects on the years spent in the Mongol Empire, on the people he met, on the life he lived, a world so different, yet now a part of him. He carries those memories quietly, not as something distant, but as something real. Something lived. Eventually, after a long and patient journey, the familiar begins to return. The air changes, the sounds feel closer to home, and then Venice. The city appears once more. But it is not the same. Or perhaps it is Marco who has changed. The streets feel smaller, the noise feels louder. The world he once knew now feels different. He returns, not as the boy who left, but as someone who has seen beyond it. And slowly, his story begins to spread. People gather, listening to his experiences, to his descriptions of distant lands, of vast empires, of a ruler named Kublai Khan. To many, it sounds unbelievable. Too vast, too detailed, too different. But Marco speaks calmly, not to convince, but simply to share. The story of a journey that crossed continents, that moved through cultures, that carried him far beyond the familiar. And as time passes, those stories remain, written down, passed along, becoming a part of history. A quiet record of a world once seen through the eyes of a traveler. And now, as we gently reach the end of this story, we find ourselves once again in a quiet moment, a moment of stillness. We have traveled far, across lands, across time, following a path that began with curiosity and ended with understanding. And perhaps, as you rest here, listening to this calm journey, you too feel that same stillness, that same quiet space where thoughts slow down and the world becomes soft. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go. Just this moment and the gentle rhythm of the story fading into silence. And if you enjoyed this quiet journey through history, if these calm stories help you relax and drift into peaceful sleep, you can always return again. There are many more stories waiting, many more distant worlds to explore. Here on *Try Sleep 4*, where history is slow, gentle, and made for rest. And now, as everything settles into silence, let yourself relax completely and drift softly into sleep. Tonight, we begin another quiet journey, not across ancient forests or distant empires, but across a land that is wide, open, and slowly changing. A land where the horizon stretches endlessly, where the wind moves gently across empty plains, and where the idea of connection is still just a dream. This is the story of a path made not of footsteps, but of iron and wood. A path that would one day connect an entire nation. But in the beginning, there was nothing, only land. Vast, silent, untouched land. In the early days of America, travel was slow, difficult, uncertain. People moved by foot, by horse, or by wagon. Journeys that would take weeks, sometimes months, were simply a part of life. There were no shortcuts, no easy ways across the country. Mountains stood tall in the distance. Rivers flowed wide and strong. Deserts stretched far beyond sight, each one a challenge, each one a barrier. And yet, people continued to move. Settlers traveled west, searching for new beginnings, carrying with them simple belongings and quiet hopes for a better life. The roads they followed were rough, unpredictable, sometimes disappearing completely, leaving only open land ahead. But even in these quiet and difficult journeys, an idea slowly began to form. A thought, simple at first, but powerful. What if there was a faster way? What if the long distance between east and west could be connected, not by slow movement, but by something steady, something constant? This idea slowly grew, and with time, it became a plan to build a railroad. A single line stretching across the land, connecting distant places, bringing people closer together. It was not an easy idea. Many doubted it. The land was too vast, too difficult, too unpredictable. But still, the idea remained, quietly waiting, until one day it began. The decision was made, the work would start, and so in the 1860s the first steps were taken, not with speed, not with noise, but slowly, carefully. Workers gathered, tools were prepared. Wooden beams, iron rails, simple materials brought together with purpose. The work was hard. The conditions were not always easy, but there was a sense of direction, a quiet understanding that something important was being built, something that would last. The land did not change quickly. It resisted. Mountains needed to be crossed. Rivers needed to be bridged. The earth itself needed to be shaped. And so, day by day, piece by piece, the railroad began to grow, not as a finished path, but as a slow and steady line, stretching further with each passing moment. Workers moved with patience, laying each rail carefully, placing each beam with effort. There was no rush, only progress. Slow, consistent, quiet progress. The sound of tools, the movement of hands, the rhythm of work, all blending into a steady flow. And as the days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the railroad continued to extend, across plains, toward mountains, into the unknown. It was not just a project. It was a journey of effort, of persistence, of quiet determination. And as we stand here, at the very beginning of this long path, we can already feel something changing, not just in the land, but in the idea of connection itself. A future slowly taking shape, one rail at a time. And as this quiet work continues, we prepare to move forward into the next part of the story, where the journey becomes more challenging and the path ahead more demanding. And now, as the quiet line of the railroad slowly begins to stretch across the land, we turn our attention to the people behind it. The workers, those who spent their days and nights shaping the path, one piece at a time. From a distance, the railroad may seem simple, a line of iron resting on wood. But up close, it is something else entirely. It is effort, it is patience, it is the steady rhythm of human hands at work. The workers come from different places, some from nearby towns, others from distant lands, each one carrying their own story, their own reason for being here. Many are laborers, strong, quiet, focused. They rise early in the morning before the sun fully appears. The air is often cold, the land still, and yet the work begins. Tools are lifted. Wooden beams are placed carefully on the ground. Iron rails are carried, heavy, steady, and set into position. Each movement matters. Each step adds to the growing line. There is no loud celebration, no sudden change, only progress, slow and constant. Among the workers, there are many who have traveled far to be here. Chinese laborers moving across the ocean, arriving in a land that feels unfamiliar. They work with discipline, with quiet focus, often facing conditions that are not easy, long hours, difficult terrain, limited rest. And yet they continue, day after day. Their presence becomes a steady part of the railroad's growth. moving through mountains, through rocky paths, through areas where the land resists every step forward. In the high mountains, the air grows thin. The cold becomes stronger. Snow falls quietly, covering the ground, making each step more difficult. Here, the work becomes slower, more careful. Tunnels must be carved through solid rock, a task that takes time, patience, and courage. Workers chip away at the stone, small pieces at a time. There is no rushing this process, only persistence, only effort. And in these quiet moments, amid the sound of tools against rock, there is a sense of determination, not loud, not forceful, but steady, always moving forward. Elsewhere, on the open plains, the work feels different. The land is wide, flat, stretching endlessly. Here, the challenge is not the terrain, but the distance itself. Miles and miles of open space waiting to be connected. The sun moves slowly across the sky, marking the passage of time. Workers move with it, laying track after track, repeating the same careful process, placing beams, aligning rails, securing them in place. It becomes a rhythm, almost like a quiet pattern, one that continues without interruption. There are moments of rest, short pauses where workers sit quietly, drinking water, sharing simple meals, speaking in low voices, or sometimes not speaking at all, just resting, just breathing. And then the work begins again. Even in these simple routines, there is something meaningful, a shared effort, a connection between people who may not share the same language but share the same purpose. To build, to move forward, to create something that will last. The railroad continues to grow, slowly, steadily, reaching further into the land. And with each passing day, the distance between east and west becomes just a little smaller, not in a dramatic way, not all at once, but piece by piece, rail by rail, moment by moment. And as we observe this quiet effort, we begin to understand something important. That great changes are not always sudden. They are built slowly, through patience, through repetition, through the steady work of many hands. And as the workers continue their task, we prepare to move forward into the next part of the journey, where the path becomes even more challenging, and the final connection begins to take shape. And now, as the long line of the railroad continues to stretch across the land, we arrive at one of its greatest challenges, the mountains. From a distance, they appear calm, still, silent against the sky. But as the workers move closer, their true nature begins to reveal itself. Steep slopes, rough terrain, solid rock that does not easily give way. The path forward is no longer simple. The open plains now feel far behind. Here, every step must be earned. Every piece of progress must be carved from the earth itself. The air grows colder, thinner. The wind moves more sharply across the land, and yet the work continues. There is no turning back. The railroad must move forward. Workers begin the slow task of cutting through the mountains, not with machines as we know them today, but with simple tools, hammers, chisels, careful effort. They work in small sections, breaking rock piece by piece. There is no rush, only patience. The sound of metal striking stone echoes quietly through the mountains, a steady rhythm, repeating again and again. Tunnels begin to take shape, dark openings in the rock, leading into the unknown. Inside, the air is still, cool. The light fades quickly. Workers move carefully, guiding their way through narrow spaces, each movement measured, each step deliberate. Time feels different here, slower, more focused. Outside, snow begins to fall, soft at first, then heavier, covering the ground, changing the landscape into something quiet and white. The cold settles in, making the work even more difficult. Hands grow stiff, breath becomes visible in the air. But still, the workers continue. Wrapped in simple clothing, moving slowly, adjusting to the harsh conditions. There is no complaint, no loud resistance, only quiet endurance. Elsewhere, along steep cliffs, rails must be placed with precision. There is little room for error. The ground drops away sharply, and yet, step by step, beam by beam, the railroad moves forward. Ropes are used, careful positioning, a balance between effort and caution. Each section completed brings a small sense of progress, not celebrated loudly, but felt quietly. And as the work continues, the mountains slowly begin to change. Not dramatically, not all at once, but in small ways. Paths appear where there were none. Tunnels connect one side to another. The impossible slowly becomes possible. Days pass, then weeks, then months. Time moves steadily, just like the work itself. And through it all, there is a sense of purpose, not rushed, not forced, but steady. Unchanging, the workers understand that what they are building is more than just a path. It is a connection, a way to bring distant places closer, a way to move across the land with ease and continuity. And as the mountains are slowly crossed, as the hardest part of the journey begins to give way, there is a quiet shift. A feeling that something is nearing completion, not yet finished, but closer than before. The path behind them stretches long. The path ahead begins to open, and as we stand here, in the stillness of these mountains, watching the final sections take shape, we prepare to move forward into the next chapter, where the two sides of the railroad slowly begin to approach each other, bringing the journey closer to its end. Now, as the long journey of building the railroad continues, we begin to sense something changing. The work, which once felt endless, now carries a quiet feeling of direction, a sense that the path is slowly reaching its purpose. From the east and from the west, two separate lines have been growing, each one moving steadily across the land, each one shaped by the same effort, the same patience, the same quiet determination. For a long time, these two paths existed far apart, separated by distance, by mountains, by open plains. But now, that distance is slowly disappearing. Day by day, rail by rail, they begin to move closer. The workers continue their routine, placing beams, aligning iron rails, securing each section carefully. The process remains the same, calm, repetitive, focused, but beneath this steady rhythm, there is something new, a quiet awareness that the end is no longer far away. On both sides, progress continues. The land, once a barrier, now feels more familiar. The mountains have been crossed, the plains have been covered, the path ahead feels clearer. There are still challenges, small ones, moments where the land resists, but nothing like before, nothing that cannot be managed with patience. Workers move with experience now, their hands steady, their movements practiced. What once felt difficult now feels known, understood. And as the days pass, there is a subtle shift in energy, not excitement, not noise, but a quiet anticipation, a feeling that something important is about to happen. The distance between the two lines grows smaller, not in large leaps, but in small, consistent steps. Miles become fewer. The space between them narrows. And somewhere along this growing path, a meeting point is chosen, a place where east and west will finally connect. The land there is calm, open, a quiet space waiting for something meaningful. And as both sides move closer, this place becomes more significant, more real. Workers on each side continue their task, aware that their efforts are leading to this single moment. The rhythm of work remains unchanged, but the purpose feels clearer, more focused. And then, one day, the distance is almost gone. Only a small section remains. A final gap, a space that has yet to be filled. The workers approach it slowly, carefully, each step measured, each movement deliberate. There is no rush, only attention, only presence. The rails are aligned, the wooden beams placed with precision, Everything must fit perfectly, because this is not just another section, this is the connection. The moment when two separate journeys become one, and as the final pieces are prepared, the air feels still, quiet, as if the land itself is waiting for this long journey to reach its completion. And as we stand here, watching this final approach, we feel that same stillness, that same quiet anticipation. A journey that began with a simple idea has now reached its final stage, and as the last connection draws near, we prepare to step into the final chapter, where the path will be completed, and the meaning of this long effort will gently come into view. And now, after years of steady effort, after countless days of quiet work, we arrive at the final moment. The place where the two paths meet. The land is still, open, calm beneath the wide sky. There is no rush, no noise, only a quiet sense of completion. The workers gather slowly, not in large crowds, not in celebration, but in quiet presence, each one aware that they have reached the end of a long journey. The final section of track lies before them, a small gap, the last space that remains. Wooden beams are placed carefully on the ground. Aligned with precision, the iron rails are brought forward. Lifted into position, everything moves slowly, deliberately. This is not just another piece of the railroad. This is the connection, the moment where east and west become one. A final spike is prepared. Simple, small, and yet meaningful. As it is placed into position, there is a pause, a brief moment of stillness. The air feels quiet, almost reflective. Then, with a single measured movement, the spike is driven into place, not with force, not with noise, but with calm intention. And just like that, the railroad is complete. A path that stretches across the land, from one side to the other, connecting distant places, bringing together what was once far apart. There is no loud celebration, no sudden change, only a quiet understanding that something important has been finished. The workers step back, looking at what they have built. A line of iron and wood extending beyond sight. A path created through patience, through effort, through time. And in that moment, there is a sense of stillness, a feeling that the journey itself was just as meaningful as the result. Trains will one day move along this path, carrying people, goods, stories, reducing distance, changing the way the land is experienced. But for now, it remains quiet, still, resting in the calm of completion. And as the sun begins to lower in the sky, casting soft light across the rails, the moment gently settles. The work is done. The path is complete. And yet, the story continues, because every ending is also a beginning. A new way of moving, a new way of connecting. And as we slowly step back from this moment, we carry with us a simple understanding that great things are not built in a single moment. They are built slowly, through patience, through quiet effort, through time. And now, as this journey comes to a close, we find ourselves once again in a calm space, a place of stillness, where everything feels just a little softer, a little quieter. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go. Just this moment and the gentle rhythm of the story, fading into silence. And if you enjoyed this quiet journey through history, if these slow stories help you relax and drift into peaceful sleep, you can always return again. There are many more stories waiting, many more calm journeys to explore. Here on *try sleep for *, where history is slow, gentle, and made for rest. And now, as everything settles into quiet, let yourself relax completely and drift softly into sleep. Tonight, we travel once more, not to busy cities or growing towns, but to a land of open skies, endless grasslands, and a quiet rhythm of life that moves with the wind. A place where the horizon stretches far beyond sight, where the earth feels wide and free, and where people live not in fixed homes, but in movement. This is the world of the Mongols, a world that feels simple at first, yet holds a deep sense of structure and balance. Long before large cities became the center of life, before walls and streets defined where people lived, there were those who followed a different path, a life guided by nature, by seasons, by the movement of animals and the changing of the land. In this world, the home is not made of stone or wood, but of felt and wood frames, round structures, known for their strength and simplicity. These homes, often called yurts, are built to move. They can be taken down, carried across the land, and set up again, wherever the people choose to rest. Inside, the space is warm, organized. Everything has its place. The center holds a small fire, its gentle heat spreading through the space. Around it, simple belongings, carefully arranged. There is no excess, only what is needed. Life here moves differently. There are no fixed schedules, no constant noise, only the quiet flow of daily tasks. In the early morning, before the sun fully rises, people begin to wake. The air is cool, still. Horses stand nearby, calm and steady. Animals are an important part of life. They provide food, transport, and connection to the land. People move gently among them, feeding them, caring for them, understanding their needs. It is not just work. It is a relationship. Children grow up in this environment, learning not from books, but from experience, watching, listening, following the quiet routines of those around them. They learn how to ride horses at a young age, how to move across the land with balance, how to live with awareness of their surroundings. There is a sense of freedom here, but also responsibility. Each person has a role. Each action has a meaning. Food is prepared simply. Milk, meat, basic ingredients, used with care. Nothing is wasted. Everything has purpose. Meals are shared, not rushed, not hurried, just quiet moments of gathering. Conversations are soft. Sometimes words are not even needed. Silence is comfortable, natural. The land itself feels alive. The wind moves across the grasslands, creating a soft sound like a constant whisper. The sky stretches wide above, changing slowly from morning to evening. Time here is not measured by clocks, but by light, by movement, by feeling. And within this calm environment, there exists a deeper structure, a system of leadership, of order, of quiet authority. The Mongol Empire, though vast, is not chaotic. It is guided, organized in ways that are not always visible at first. And at the center of this system is the court, a place where decisions are made, where leaders gather, where the direction of this vast world is quietly shaped. But unlike the courts of stone palaces, this one moves. It travels with the people, adapting to the land, remaining connected to the way of life that defines it. As we sit here, in this open and peaceful landscape, watching the gentle flow of daily life, we begin to understand something simple, that comfort does not always come from complexity. Sometimes it comes from simplicity, from balance, from a life lived in harmony with the world around it. And as this quiet beginning settles into place, we prepare to move deeper into this world, to understand the customs, the traditions, and the quiet structure that holds everything together. And now, as we remain in this wide and peaceful land, we begin to notice the gentle rhythm of daily life more closely. There is no sudden beginning to the day, no loud signals, no rushing footsteps, only a slow awakening. The light of the morning spreads softly across the grasslands, touching the earth with warmth and quietly guiding people into their day. Inside the yurt, the air is calm. The small fire at the center is brought back to life, its warmth slowly filling the space. There is no urgency. Each movement is natural, unforced. Outside, the land stretches endlessly. Horses stand nearby, their presence calm and steady. They are not just animals here, they are companions, a part of everyday life. People move among them with familiarity, checking their condition, guiding them gently, understanding their behavior without the need for words. Milking begins early. Milk is an important part of life. Collected carefully, it becomes the base for many simple foods. It is boiled, fermented, transformed into different forms that can be stored and used over time. There is no waste. Everything is used with care. Food preparation is simple. Meat is cooked slowly, often over an open flame. There are no complex recipes, no unnecessary steps, only what is needed, only what is available. Meals are shared quietly. People sit together, not in large groups, but in small, close circles. The atmosphere is calm. There is no rush to finish, no pressure, just a moment to eat, to rest, to be present. Children move freely, learning through observation, watching how tasks are done, how animals are cared for, how the rhythm of life flows. There are no strict lessons, no formal teaching, only experience, only time. As the day continues, tasks vary. Some people prepare for travel, others repair tools, some care for animals, moving them to better grazing areas. Each task has its place. Each action has purpose, and yet there is always a sense of calm. No unnecessary movement, no wasted effort. Everything is balanced. The land itself guides this rhythm. If the grass begins to thin, the people move, packing their homes, their belongings, their lives, and carrying them to a new place. The yurts are taken down with care, each piece handled with familiarity, then loaded onto animals and carried across the land. When they arrive at a new location, the process begins again, setting up the yurt, arranging the space, rebuilding the small center of life. It is not seen as difficult, it is simply part of living. Movement is natural, change is expected, and in this constant movement, there is stability, because the rhythm remains the same, even as the location changes. As the sun moves higher in the sky, the day continues in quiet flow. There are moments of rest, moments where people sit outside, looking across the land, watching the horizon. There is nothing urgent, nothing demanding attention, only space, only stillness. And as evening approaches, the light softens, the air cools, the land becomes even quieter. Inside the yurt, the fire glows gently. Food is prepared once more. Simple, warm, comforting. People gather again, sharing the end of the day. There may be stories, soft voices speaking of past journeys, of experiences, of small moments that carry meaning. Or sometimes, there is only silence, and that silence is enough. The stars begin to appear in the sky, clear, bright, unobstructed by anything, a reminder of the vastness of the world. And within this vastness, life continues in its simple form, calm, steady, balanced. And as we sit here in this quiet moment, watching the gentle flow of daily life, we begin to feel that same calm, that same steady rhythm. And as the night settles in, we prepare to move deeper into this world, to understand the customs, the traditions, and the quiet rules that guide this way of life. And now, as the quiet rhythm of daily life continues around us, we begin to notice something deeper. Not just how people live, but how they understand the world around them. Because within this simple way of life, there are traditions, customs that guide behavior, unspoken rules that shape everyday actions. They are not written, not formally taught, and yet they are known by everyone, passed down quietly from one generation to the next. In this world, respect holds great importance, not in loud displays, but in small, thoughtful gestures. The way a person enters a yurt is done with care, never rushing, never stepping without awareness. The doorway itself is treated with quiet respect, a small boundary between the outside world and the warmth within. Inside, everything has its place. Each side of the yurt carries meaning. Certain areas are reserved, others are shared. Visitors are welcomed, but always guided gently to where they should sit. There is no confusion, only understanding. When offering food or drink, it is done with intention, using the right hand with a calm movement. It is not just an action, it is a gesture of respect. Receiving it is done the same way, slowly, carefully, acknowledging the moment. Even the way people sit or move within the space follows a quiet structure, not strict, not forced, but understood. There is a sense of order woven into everyday life. Beyond the home, there are larger traditions, gatherings where people come together. Not often, but when they do, they carry meaning. These are moments of connection, of shared identity. Food is prepared in greater amounts. Animals are chosen carefully. Meals are not just for nourishment, but for togetherness. There may be music, simple instruments, soft sounds carried by the wind, voices raised gently, not in loud celebration, but in calm expression. Stories are shared, passed from one voice to another, tales of journeys of ancestors, of moments that shaped their way of life. There is no need for writing. Memory holds everything. Memory is respected. Rituals also exist, quiet and meaningful. Before journeys, there are small moments of preparation, not just physical, but mental. A pause, a reflection, sometimes offerings are made, simple gestures, acknowledging the land, the sky, the unseen forces that guide life. There is a deep connection to nature. The sky above is not just empty space. It is something greater, something constant. The earth below is not just ground, it is support, life. Everything is connected, and this connection is felt, even in silence. There are no large temples, no grand structures. Worship, if it can be called that, happens quietly, within the heart, within the moment. Time moves gently through these traditions. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels forced. Each custom exists because it has meaning, because it brings balance, because it connects people to each other and to the world around them. Children grow into these traditions naturally, watching, listening, understanding without being told. There is no need for strict instruction. Life itself teaches them. And as we observe these quiet customs, we begin to see something clear. That structure does not always come from rules. Sometimes it comes from understanding, from shared values, from a quiet agreement on how life should flow. And in this understanding, there is peace, a calm that does not depend on anything outside, but comes from within. And as this deeper layer of life begins to reveal itself, we prepare to move forward once more into the next part of this journey, where we explore the court itself, the place where leadership and tradition come together in quiet harmony. And now, as we move deeper into this vast and quiet world, we arrive at a place that feels different, yet still connected to everything we have seen. The court, not a place of stone walls, not a fixed palace rising above the land, but something far more fluid, a moving center of leadership, a place that travels with the people, remaining connected to the rhythm of the land. From a distance, it may look like a gathering of tents, simple, unremarkable, but as we move closer, we begin to notice the structure, the quiet organization, each tent placed with intention, each space holding a purpose. At the center is the presence of leadership, the ruler, not separated by walls, not hidden behind distance, but present within the same open space. There is no need for loud displays of power, no need for constant reminders. Authority here is understood, felt in the way people move, in the way decisions are carried out, in the quiet respect shown by others. The court itself is calm. There is no chaos, no unnecessary movement. People come and go with purpose. Messengers arrive, carrying information from distant parts of the empire. They do not rush. They move steadily, delivering their messages with care. Advisors sit nearby, listening, thinking, speaking in low voices. Discussions are not loud, not filled with argument, but measured, each word chosen carefully, each thought considered. Decisions are made slowly, with attention. There is no pressure for speed, only the need for balance, for understanding. The ruler listens, observes, takes in everything before responding. And when a decision is made, it is carried out without resistance, not because of force, but because of trust, because the structure of leadership is clear, simple, understood by all. The court is not separate from daily life, it exists within it, surrounded by the same land, the same sky, the same movement of people and animals. This connection keeps it grounded, prevents it from becoming distant, unreachable. Even those who come to the court approach it with calm awareness. They do not speak loudly. They do not act without thought. There is a natural sense of respect, not imposed, but shared. Ceremonies take place here as well, quiet gatherings where traditions and leadership meet. Clothing reflects roles, simple yet meaningful. Patterns, materials, small details, all indicating position without excess. Food is shared, not in large displays, but in measured ways. Each part of the gathering follows a rhythm, a structure that has been followed for generations. And within all of this, there is a sense of stillness. Even in moments of importance, there is calm. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels out of place. Time moves gently, as it does everywhere in this world. And as we sit here, watching the quiet flow of the court, we begin to understand something deeper. That power does not always need to be loud. It does not always need to be shown. Sometimes it exists quietly, in balance, in understanding, in the ability to guide without force. And as the court continues its steady rhythm, we feel that same calm presence, a space where everything moves with intention, where nothing is wasted, where every action has meaning. And as this quiet understanding settles within us, we prepare to move into the final part of this journey, where we step back, reflect on everything we have seen, and allow this peaceful world to gently come to rest. And now, as the day slowly comes to a close and the wide grasslands settle into quiet, we take a moment to reflect on what we have seen. The simple rhythm of daily life, the quiet customs that guide behavior, the calm order of the court, everything moving gently, nothing rushed. Every action has its place, every person has a role. The land stretches endlessly, the sky above moves slowly. The wind whispers through the grass. Even the animals move in harmony with this flow. We have observed the Mongol world, not in grand displays, not in dramatic events, but in the small, gentle moments that shape life. And as the sun dips toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the land, there is a feeling of completeness. The cycle of day into night, the rhythm of life, calm and steady, everything finds its balance. Now it is time to rest, to allow the quiet of this world to fill the mind and heart. There is no hurry, no need to act, no need to speak, just presence, just stillness. And as the stars appear above, shining softly in the clear night sky, we carry this calm with us, knowing that even in movement, even in life's daily routines, there is a place for peace, a place for quiet reflection, a place where stories can gently unfold, without urgency, without rush, simply, slowly, soothing the mind. And if you have followed along, if this calm journey through the Mongol world has settled your thoughts, you may now drift softly, gently, into rest. And as you close your eyes, let this quiet understanding linger, that life, in its simplest form, can be full of balance, of calm and gentle order. And for those who wish to return to explore more slow stories, more peaceful histories, you can always come back to *Try Sleep 4. Here, the stories continue, softly, quietly, for rest. Now, let the world fade softly around you and drift into sleep. And now, as our journey through these gentle stories comes to a close, you can carry this calm with you. If you enjoyed these quiet moments, if the slow unfolding of history has helped you relax, and you'd like to return for more peaceful stories, simply follow *Try Sleep 4. Here, new tales arrive gently, softly, designed to soothe your mind and guide you toward restful sleep. No rush, no pressure, just calm stories waiting for you anytime you need. So go ahead, tap follow, and let Try Sleep 4 be your quiet companion as history, stories, and gentle narratives drift softly into your nights. Rest easy, and we'll meet again in the next slow story.